Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow. Here are the stories we're following today.
Karen, we begin with the latest on the search for conservative activist Charlie Kirk's killer. The founder of Turning Point USA was shot Wednesday while speaking to a crowd at Utah Valley University. Last night, the FBI released surveillance video of a suspect dressed in black darting across a rooftop on campus, swinging over the edge, then walking past a parking lot. Earlier, authorities said they had recovered the rifle used in the killing and released photos of that person of interest. Utah Governor Spencer Cox says they have a mountain of evidence.
The public has answered our call for action. So far, we've received more than 7,000 leads and tips. I would just note that the FBI hasn't received this many digital media tips from the public since the Boston Marathon bombing.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox is also accusing China, Russia, and other adversaries of spreading disinformation about the case to encourage violence. He says the state will pursue the death penalty against Charlie Kirk's killer.
Well, Nathan, President Trump says he plans to attend Charlie Kirk's funeral next week in Arizona. He says he's heard investigators are making big progress in finding the killer.
I'd rather not say. I think progress is being made. He's an animal, total animal. And hopefully they'll have him and they'll get him. What he did is disgraceful.
President Trump says he's spoken with Kirk's wife, Erica. Earlier, he announced he plans to award Kirk a posthumous Presidential Medal of Freedom. The president spoke to reporters on his way to New York City, where he attended last night's Yankee game to mark 24 years since the September 11th attacks.
And Karen, Charlie Kirk's murder is adding to a record surge of political violence in the U.S. A Bloomberg geoeconomics analysis shows there have been 5 assassinations or attempted assassinations since 2021. That's the most of any 5 years going back to the 1960s, and that number includes the 2 attempts on President Trump's life last year. In their research note, Bloomberg economists Jennifer Welch and Martin Quick say intensifying political polarization seems to be contributing to the rise. They say the risk going forward is that violence may lead to more violence.
Well, Nathan, let's turn to new developments this morning in the Boston mayoral race. Josh Kraft, the son of New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft, is dropping out after losing badly to incumbent Michelle Wu in this week's preliminary election. Kraft tells News Center 5 in Boston that he can make a better impact outside of the race.
The country's at a place now, we see it every day, where the vitriol and the political arguing and fighting, it's not leading to anything but anger and negativity.
And Josh Kraft won just 23% of the vote compared to Wu's 72%. He shattered fundraising records and outspent Wu by millions, but his suspension leaves Wu all but assured of a second term in November. No other challenger advanced beyond the preliminary contest.
Let's turn now to the latest on the trade front, Karen. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will meet with Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng in Madrid next week. They plan to discuss trade, economic, and national security issues. In another sign, talks between the two sides are heating up. The discussions will also cover TikTok's status and efforts to combat money laundering. A 90-day tariff truce between the U.S. and China is set to expire in early November.
Nathan, trade tensions between the U.S. and India may be easing. President Trump's pick for Ambassador Sergio Gore says the two countries are close to resolving differences over a trade deal. India's purchases of Russian oil remain a key source of tension, and it's unclear how that would be resolved. President Trump slapped India with 50% tariffs last month.
And Karen, tensions between President Trump and the Federal Reserve are intensifying. Now, the Trump administration is looking to fast-track its bid to oust Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Let's get the latest from Bloomberg's John Tucker. John.
Yeah, Nathan, President Trump has asked the Federal Appeals Court to immediately pause the lower court decision that blocked his attempt to fire Cook. This is an indication he wants this to go to the Supreme Court for the final word as soon as possible. So the administration asked for a ruling by Monday. That's one day before the Fed starts meeting to vote whether to lower interest rates. Well, Cook can attend the meeting as long as the ruling remains in place. Cook's lawyer says in a court filing an administrative stay would threaten Governor Cook's participation in next week's Fed meeting and potentially plunge the Federal Open Market Committee's vote into turmoil. In New York, I'm John Tucker, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, John, thank you. We want to turn to the markets now, and futures are lower following another record close on Wall Street. Shares of Microsoft are higher, up 1.5% this morning. The company and OpenAI have reached an agreement about the structure of their partnership. We get more with Bloomberg's Annabelle Drewlers.
A new public benefit corporation is going to be created. That's a PBC. It's important just to make some nuance here. It's not like a traditional corporation. A PBC still needs to balance making money with also more corporate social responsibility goals as well. But OpenAI is going to be investing $100 billion into this PBC.
And Bloomberg's Annabelle Drewler says OpenAI is facing opposition to its restructuring from Elon Musk, who is accusing the startup of defrauding investors about its commitment to its charitable mission. Microsoft is the largest shareholder in OpenAI.
We have another note on Microsoft this morning, Karen. The software giant's avoiding a hefty antitrust penalty after the European Union accepted its commitments to settle a probe into alleged illegal bundling of its Microsoft Teams video conferencing app. EU regulators say Microsoft's promise to carve out Teams from its hugely popular Office packages allays competition concerns.
Nathan, shares of Adobe are up more than 4%. The software maker gave a strong quarterly revenue outlook. Analysts say that suggests Adobe is seeing a payoff from its investment in AI features.
And Karen, Bloomberg News has learned that Paramount Skydance is preparing a bid for rival Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount is the Hollywood studio that was just taken over last month by independent filmmaker David Ellison. The offer is being backed by Ellison's family, with his father Larry Ellison, of course, the co-founder of Oracle. Earlier this year, Warner Brothers said it planned to restructure into two divisions, one focused on cable TV, the other on streaming and studios.
And it's time now for a look at some of the other stories making news in New York and around the world. And for that, we're joined by Bloomberg's Michael Barr. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk said the drone attack by Russia that happened earlier this week was not a mistake. Tusk's comments on X came just a few hours after President Trump told reporters the incursion could have been a mistake. Meanwhile, some lawmakers in Congress want to pass a bill that formally recognizes Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina and Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut say Russia is kidnapping Ukrainian children. Blumenthal says Senate leadership should rush the bill to a vote, especially after Russian drones went into Polish airspace earlier this week.
I call on the majority leader to give us a vote on the sanctions bill after this incursion in Poland. The time is now to show strength.
Senator Blumenthal called Vladimir Putin a war criminal. The suspect, who New York City police say tortured and killed an elderly couple in Queens before setting their home on fire, has been charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder. Among the charges, Jamel McGriff also faces 2 counts of robbery, kidnap, abduction resulting in death. McGriff was denied bail. Police say McGriff set Frank and Maureen Olton, both in their 70s, on fire Monday after spending 5 hours inside their home. Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro has been convicted of attempting a coup to stay in office after losing his re-election bid in 2022. As he left the White House for a New York Yankees game, President Trump was asked about Bolsonaro's case.
Well, I watched that trial. I know him pretty well. Foreign leader. I thought he was a good president of Brazil.
4 of the 5 justices on the Supreme Court panel voted to convict Bolsonaro Thursday and sentenced him to 27 years and 3 months in prison. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg, Karen.
Thanks, Michael. Time now for our Bloomberg Sports Update, and for that, we bring in John Stashower.
Thanks, Karen. Quite a start to the NFL season for the Green Bay Packers. They beat Detroit 27-13 and came back 5 nights later. Another home win, this time 27-18 over Washington. So they've beaten 2 of the best teams from the NFC last year and are 2-0 for the first time since 2020. Big night for the Packers tight end Tucker Kraft. He had 124 yards in receptions. Aaron Judge, 2 home runs, and the Yankees win over Detroit. Now 361 career home runs. He's tied for 4th on the all-time Yankee list. That's your Bloomberg Sports Update.
Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Daybreak coming up after this. All right, Michael Barr, thank you.
coast to coast on Bloomberg Radio, nationwide on Sirius XM, and around the world on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
Good morning. I'm Nathan Hager. The search for conservative activist Charlie Kirk's killer is now heading into a third day. Authorities in Utah say they have more than 7,000 leads and tips, including photos and surveillance video. But Utah Governor Spencer Cox is warning that people should not be swayed by false leads.
What we're seeing is our adversaries want violence. China, we have bots from Russia, China, all over the world that are trying to instill disinformation and encourage violence. I would encourage you to ignore those.
And that was Utah Governor Spencer Cox updating the media last night. This morning, we are joined by Bloomberg's David Gura, the host of the Big Take podcast. So, David, let's get to actual information. Update us on where things stand in the investigation right now. Good morning.
Good morning. Governor Cox, who we just heard from there, was part of a news conference last night giving an update on this investigation. He was there with Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. Dan Bongino, his deputy, is in Utah as well as all of this unfolds. And at this point, Nathan, we still have precious little information. This manhunt continues. At the news conference last night, the FBI did release new footage that they have from the scene here showing a person of interest running across a roof, then at the edge of it, jumping down onto some grass and running into the woods. New photographs as well of this person of interest wearing a T-shirt, a black T-shirt, hat with a triangle on it, that T-shirt having an American flag on it, suggesting the person was wearing Converse shoes as well. So giving some information here to the public to help identify this person if they can. But as you said, 3 days into this, no indication of them having any very close leads of getting this person yet. And there was an interesting Q&A during that news conference last night, a reporter asking the DPS commissioner in Utah if they think this person of interest remains in Utah, and Bo Mason, the commissioner, saying he has no idea. So we'll see what happens today. But again, we heard that entreaty from public safety officials, including the FBI director, that if people know more about this incident, they should tell the government, offering a $100,000 reward and indicating they've gotten more than 7,000 leads thus far, comparable only to what we saw after that Boston Marathon bombing.
And in terms of this concern that Governor Cox raised about disinformation spreading online, David, how is that playing out?
You know, we've seen a lot of it, and unfortunately it was done rather acutely in the case of the FBI director, who posted on social media shortly after the shooting that the FBI had in fact caught the suspect responsible and had to walk that back in a subsequent post. The FBI has brought in 2 individuals, persons of interest, for questioning, but those are not suspects in this case. So that's only kind of fueled the fire surrounding all of this. But yeah, as you say, it's spread a lot on social media, I think in part because of the position of influence that Charlie Kirk had as somebody who was very active on social media, somebody whose TikTok videos, Instagram videos really were incredibly popular. So he's somebody who very much lived online as well.
Talking about that position of influence, we're seeing that play out, particularly with President Trump saying he's going to attend the funeral next week while he's still scheduled to go for a state visit in the UK next week as well. What kind of a shadow has the loss of Charlie Kirk cast over Washington, D.C.?
We heard the president address this assassination twice yesterday. First was at that memorial for 9/11 at the Pentagon, where he said that Charlie Kirk would receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously. And then as he made his way to New York for that Yankees-Detroit game last night, talked about it once again and says he does intend to attend the funeral, which is going to be in Arizona. But Charlie Kirk was a very close friend to the Trump family. Of course, he played an important role in the re-election campaign, but knew the president and his sons very well, the whole family. We saw J.D. Vance, the vice president, last minute cancel a trip to New York for a 9/11 memorial service to make his way to Utah to be on the scene there and accompany the casket with Charlie Kirk to Arizona, to his home state. So I think it kind of really shows here the important role that Charlie Kirk played, yes, in Republican politics, Trump family politics, but also just as a friend and a real ally here of the family. And we're seeing the weight that has on the Trumps here in the last 3 days.
And just 30 seconds left, David, but we've seen a lot of reflection about where the discourse is in this country. This new analysis from Bloomberg Economics that political violence is at record levels in this country. What is the risk that this could lead to more tensions?
Incredibly sobering facet of all of this is that uptick in political violence. That analysis that you mentioned, highlighting the fact there have been 5 assassinations or attempted assassinations of politicians, including 2 of President Trump here in recent years. So really the trend is not heading in a good direction. If there's any kind of unified voice coming through all of this, it's that call for the temperature to cool down. And you played that clip of Governor Cox at the top. He also paraphrased Charlie Kirk during that news conference yesterday, suggesting we should all put our phones down more and spend more time with our family. So he hoping that a legacy here is that we begin to sort of wake up to the fact that this isn't how discourse is supposed to be in this country, and move back to a place where we're all able to just speak with one another without the threat of physical violence, Nathan.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak, your morning podcast on the stories making news from Wall Street to Washington and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed by 6 a.m. Eastern each morning on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen.
You can also listen live each morning starting at 5 a.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg 1130 in New York, Bloomberg 99.1 in Washington, Bloomberg 92.9 in Boston, and nationwide on Sirius XM Channel 121.
Plus, listen coast to coast on the Bloomberg Business app, now with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto interfaces.
And don't forget to subscribe to Bloomberg News Now. It's the latest news whenever you want it, in 5 minutes or less. Search Bloomberg News Now on your favorite podcast platform to stay informed all day long. I'm Karen Moscow.
And I'm Nathan Hager. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day right here on Bloomberg Daybreak.